It's happening.
Okay, welcome along. I am chatting with Sally Baker, and today we are going to look at COVID Christmas, which is a biggie.
It is a biggie for everybody.
So, where do we start? I mean, sorry, my
It's
dogs are
just
kicking off.
background sounds. This Christmas is more emotional than any other Christmas we've ever had because we're coming from already a place of heightened emotions. We're already stressed. Anxiety levels are going through the roof. Depression and feelings of low level sadness are everywhere because we've had a very tough 2020.
Yes,
And although it's become our new normal, we shouldn't underestimate the impact that's had on most people.
absolutely. And
So
I think I'm sure others have found this as well. And I guess it's the same whatever country you're in within reason, that it's a very strange discord with all the kind of Christmas jollity on the telly,
yeah,
and actually you can't do that in real life. And even if you go to the supermarket, the shelves are stacked high with all the stuff you're meant to want to eat at this time of year, but with whom?
with whom? I'd look at those big, massive tins of chocolates and those sharing tins and think, who are you going to share it with? And I've been thinking about the turkeys, those massive 22-pound turkeys that they breed all year. Who's going to want to buy them when we're all in tiny little groups and we're not allowed the unrestricted access to everyone we would normally see at Christmas time. So
Absolutely. And for, as you said, it's going to be very difficult for an awful lot of people. But I mean, I suppose there are several particular things that we can look at that, will be particularly difficult. So, for
yeah,
example, not being able to see the whole of the family. For example, feeling that your ideal Christmas has been taken away from you. Um, for example, not knowing how to create a new normal. I hate that phrase. We've heard it all the time. But how to still make it special when
yeah.
everything is just so weird. So, should we start with family? What would you advise to people who are really stuck in that feeling they might be putting people's noses out of joint by not seeing them, or might be upset that they can't see them, or might feel that they really mustn't see them? Where do
Yes.
people start unpicking that?
They start with the history of the situation, because if we were approaching any of this in a purely logical framework, it wouldn't be an issue. But we bring with us all of the family baggage. So seeing people or not seeing people, or who you see and who you don't see, is never going to be just a decision based on logistics or on practicalities. It's going to come with an emotional load. And it would be helpful, although not by any means always feasible, to be able to have open conversations with your relatives and ask open questions and listen to responses. But we communicate with our family the way we've tended to always communicate. So these can be entrenched, really, unhelpful patterns, or they can be everyone's going to be really reasonable and open. It depends on what kind of family dynamic you've got going on. None of us will be approaching this fresh. And the dilemma about putting older relatives at risk has to be weighed against your mental well-being and their mental well-being. I know lots of people who are saying, but I really, really need to go home. Like, I'm not seeing anybody. I've not seen anyone for weeks. I'm being really careful, but I need to go home and see my people. It's quite
Yeah,
tribal. It's what we need now.
it is. And I know, obviously, in the West, Christmas is our thing. I know, obviously, other religions celebrate other things, and they've had a very difficult time over the year.
They
Everybody
have.
has. But I suppose in the UK, I'm sure it's the same in the States and in a lot of other Western countries. Christmas is that big one when you go back to who you are with your family, don't you? And you have
Yeah, you
such
do.
deep rooted traditions.
Yeah, there are also people out there that have said it's taken a pandemic, but I don't have to see my family this year. So
There are also those, yes.
they're out there. They're out there and they're quite happy that it's taken a pandemic, but I finally don't have to go home.
Yeah.
So we're all on this spectrum looking at Christmas, and it is a real touchstone for us. It's not an easy thing to dismiss. The government dismissed Hanukkah and Diwali and so many other
Yeah,
religious
and Eid and
festivals.
all sorts, didn't they? Yeah,
Eid, yeah. On the eve of Eid, it was cancelled. So we've not been given the same regard to other religions, which has been really a poor show. But we
absolutely.
are focused completely on Christmas now. I had some correspondence with a client, just a little email from her saying that about when she looks forward to Christmas, and she was saying this year is going to be so hard. Christmas is everything to me, and I'm struggling with the notion that I'm not going to be able to celebrate in the way that I've always been used to. And I can't get my head around the fact that it's going to be different this year. And that's, a lot of people are going to be in that position of looking at and planning their Christmas, even from the meal and who they can have in their house and who they can't see, to thinking and feeling overwhelmed. This isn't the Christmas I'm used to hosting, attending, sharing, and it's bringing lots of distress.
Absolutely. And if one can take the emotion out of it, which I know we can't, the logical thing to say is, well, it's a day. Yeah, it's one day. It's fine. But it isn't, is it?
No,
It's
it's
like
not. It's not
that's
about a
like
day.
telling somebody whose football team has just been relegated that it's just a game. We know that's not true.
That's true. That's very true. It's a good analogy. No, we know it's not just a day. It's an emotion. So Christmas comes loaded with all of our nostalgic emotions too. So we approach, the brand of stuffing we buy, the kind of meal who sits where at the table. Those are all family rituals that we do year in year out every year while we've got these people still in our lives. So but hanging on firmly to I can't have the kind of Christmas I always have is going to steal any kind of joy that you could get from this particular very, very special Christmas 2020, hoping that we'll only ever have one Christmas like this. So, this is not going to be our new normal. This is not forever. We're looking at a vaccine. Things will change and things will pick up. So it could be that this year will be the real COVID Christmas.
And I suppose if we're able to take ourselves out of our emotion a little bit, that actually
Yeah,
can be a really positive thing, can't it? It means that we can
can.
have that opportunity to break with all of those traditions and just do something
Yeah,
completely different, which
yeah,
is really scary for people who are maybe quite perfectionist, or for people who really need that tradition and that certainty. That's obviously
yes,
very difficult, but I wonder if there are actually quite a few people who are thinking, I wonder if this year I can just spend the day in my pajamas.
yeah.
I wonder if I can
Think of
just
it as
watch
a
back to
small
back
Christmas.
movies, and go maybe create new traditions, maybe actually discover that having a family quiz over Zoom is actually really good fun, because you
Yeah,
don't end up having a fight about whatever, because you've
sure,
got that
sure.
little bit of distance. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being slightly over
Well,
optimistic, but
we look at the pressure that women in particular have been put in over during COVID, during the pandemic, with the lockdowns, dealing with work, sometimes with childcare, sometimes with still caring for elderly relatives and all the rest of it. It's rested. The burden has very much rested on women. And we know that lots of women are completely exhausted. And perhaps this restriction of Christmas will mean that that extra burden of now having to host a massive Christmas can be, for this one year, lifted from the shoulders of these women.
yeah,
And we can think, actually, I don't have to cater for the whole family. I don't have to make it perfect for everyone. I can just focus on a small Christmas, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be different. There is a pragmatic reality to this, that it would be foolish for us to dress up. Christmas is going to be different,
yeah.
and that's the truth. And
And
that's the truth.
for those of us experiencing all the perimenopause fun of overwhelm and mood swings
Yeah,
and all of that, actually a pared down day could be a pretty damn good idea, couldn't it?
could be a great day. Could be a great day. You could actually see any relatives that live nearby. I mean, I know that geographical distance is such an issue for modern families. To go for a walk in the park and then come back and have your lunch in your own home, just a couple of you, would we? It's just, how can people dig deep and find new and different ways of dealing with this one, hopefully one pandemic Christmas? If you focus on what you can't have, if you focus on all the differences and all the lack, it's going to steal every possibility of joy. So I want to suggest a bit of a strategy that looks really weird, but works. And psychologists have been using this for quite some time. So when you're there in your COVID Christmas and it's feeling very different, and you start to drift into thinking and musing on everything you're missing, I want you to make a noise like a game show host noise when you've got something wrong. So it's like a game. Remember, the game show is family favorites. And if you answered a question wrong, your family team,
Like,
there was a noise that
that's such a
came out.
noise.
I want you either out loud, whenever you find yourself dwelling on the negative, I want you to go, If you can say it out loud, it's really great. If you have got family members there who might think you've gone a bit crazy, just say it in your head. It's called breaking state. And what we're doing with a noise is we're breaking state. And if you have got a family around you and they tend to go into negative overthinking as well, and being maudling and, focusing on lack, you can tell them about the game show noise, and you guys can all make a joke about, oh my God, now it's my turn, and you can be all over the place on Christmas. Just break the pattern. Don't allow yourselves to slide down too far into that sense of lack and sadness, because it's hard to pull yourself up. So if you can interrupt it, like spot it, oh, here I go again. I'm going down. I'm focusing on the negative. Interrupt it with and do something else.
This is right. It's just, I'm just giggling because this has reminded me of something. So we, in my little group of friends that, back when we were allowed to see friends that I used to see, oh,
Friends,
good
yes,
times.
friends.
We we have this kind of thing. If somebody's just looking like the conversation, frankly, is not interesting to them, so it's not quite the same. But we go,
Okay.
ding, 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 and that's their give a shitometer.
There you go.
So
Whatever works, guys. It does
exactly.
not have to be the That would be
So for
good.
example, if they're all off chatting about the F1 and I'm like, oh, really, then I'm ding, 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 ding. Yeah, my give
Yeah.
a shitometer is off the
Or
scale.
just like time out,
Yeah, and it's
time out,
just
whatever you can
it's
come up
injecting
with.
that humor though, isn't it?
It is that. And it's taking control again and not allowing it to completely destroy any chances of the joy that you can find in just having a small Christmas, a very different Christmas.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask one more thing because I'm aware of time and we don't want to,
Okay.
take up too much of people's valuable time whilst they're panicking about what they're going to do for Christmas. Um, I mentioned at the start that obviously it's going to be very, very difficult for people who are quite perfectionist in their nature or who really rely on those traditions to pull them through. Do you have any bits of advice for them for how they can somehow distance themselves from the fact this is going to be different?
I had an email from a client who is a complete perfectionist and used to lay on the most elaborate of Christmases, and she's going with her new partner to join his family, if that's even still allowed, for Christmas Day. And they said, you don't need to do anything, you can just come. And she's mortified that she's got to hand over control to
Yes.
another family's set of traditions and not have hers. So she's really like, how can I be there when they're not using the proper serving trays and they haven't dressed the tree as I would dress the tree
Yes, and they
and
open
all
the
that.
presents in the wrong order or
Oh
whatever.
my
Yeah.
God. It's the angst and the anxiety. It's real anxiety that you're having to abdicate responsibility, because people who want to be in control, who are perfectionists, they don't come from a relaxed place. They come from a place of fear and anxiety. So to abdicate all control to other people is very fear inducing for them. I completely get it. But in that environment, she has to either communicate to them in advance, like, I know I'm coming to your house, so I would love to be able to volunteer to dress the table, or I would love to be able to do the desserts. Can I bring them all with me? So that you can carve a bit of something that's yours. But if they say no, and they might, because they say no, well, no, we've got it all covered because you're a guest and they just want you to come and relax and be zen, you might have to just volunteer to do all the clearing up. And there's going to be very few families that are going to let that opportunity go.
I'm just going to quickly refer back to what we did in our last recording. Actually, if people are really stressed about this, they can use some EFT to work through some of that,
They
can't
can
they?
use some EFT is a really brilliant idea. And let me introduce you to constant EFT. Because if you're sitting at a table with family or
Suddenly
people you don't know
starting
very
doing
well,
this
and
is
you
a bit.
start tapping, people are going to worry about you a lot. But there's a secret tapping that I use all the time. Did I mention it when my husband drive? I don't drive, so I'm a terrible passenger, and I used to tap while my husband was driving, and he'd go crazy, say, "Oh my God, you're tapping!" But there's a constant tapping where you tap on the side of your nail. You can go with two hands, and you can do it under the tablecloth. I can do it on phone calls that are tricky phone calls with family members. I can be on the phone to them and I'm tapping with my other hand. So you tap with your thumb on the side of each fingernail. It's an acupressure point, and you tap and you breathe. And it's really low key. No one can really see you do it. But now once you know about it, you'll be surprised when we go back out into the real world and you see someone who's a public speaker doing it on as they stand at the podium. They are tapping on the side of their nail, because what it does is it keeps you grounded, it makes you feel safe, and it reminds you to breathe. So yeah, you can do constant tapping, and no, the other relatives wouldn't even know. Because let's be honest, I mean, Christmas is not the easiest time for lots of people. Lots of people find the real succor they need in their life from the family they've made, the family they've chosen as adults, not their birth family. So, birth families and Christmases with our birth families can be challenging.
Mm.
And this is good for all of us.
And
Constant tapping.
and actually, something you referred to earlier, that a lot of us, when we're back in that family unit, revert back to an
Yes.
age, whatever age. And with our friends, with our chosen family, we are us now, aren't we?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We're an
often when we
adult.
go back into that birth family, we kind of
We're about
regress to being,
12.
yeah, 12 or 15 or some really
Very arsey.
awful age.
Yeah, it's really so true. So
And
true.
that's where actually, if again this year, if you can manage to kind of contain the family side of it, the birth family side of things, to maybe a Zoom call in the morning, and then tick that off if that's going to be a stressful thing, and then
Yeah.
maybe have some fun Zoom calls with some friends in the afternoon. At
Sure.
least it
Sure.
keeps you ticking over, doesn't it, rather than just
Yeah.
so
And then it
Boxing Day
is
yet.
just one day, isn't it? Once you've got through the morning and then you think, oh, okay, I've got just the afternoon. And do fun things. Do things that really lift your spirit. If singing is a thing that out of all of the mental health activities you can do to improve your mental health, they've looked at them, and singing in a choir or just singing in the shower is one of the ones that lifts the spirits the most. So sing, or if you want to just dance around your living room to all the Michael Bublé tracks on Spotify, you just do that. Something that's going to shift you out of lack and focusing on what you're missing into a heightened, better state to get through this day.
Yeah.
This one COVID Christmas, let's hope. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's given people some really nice positives. And obviously, if anyone's watching this and they want to speak to you further, they can do, can't they?
They can. Lots of strategies. They're
Yeah.
not all as crazy as but
Come on.
that's there too.
I've got ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Excellent. Well, I'll put your contact details at the end of the video. And so if anybody wants to get in touch, they can do. Thank you so
Great.
much, Sally.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye for having me. Thanks.